My name is Anna Mendoza. I'm a dog trainer here at Paw Commons, and today we're going to be going over the dog fight safety training presentation. This is specifically about dog fights. This is not to address escalated play or heightened arousal in the yard. So let's get into it. The first thing we want to do when we see a dog fight happen is take action, because if we freeze or if we don't take action, then the chances of a serious injury happening go up. So taking action and moving towards the fight, we are applying body pressure when we do that, right? If this is the fight and we move towards it, we're applying body pressure. We should also be utilizing a verbal correction that is loud and firm. You can say anything you want. Usually I like to say, hey, cut that out as I'm moving towards the fight, right? You want to stand tall, you want to be firm, you want to be confident with it, right? Moving towards the fight, applying body pressure, using a verbal correction, maybe even clapping as well. A lot of the time, most of the time, doing this is enough to break up a fight. But let's say it doesn't work, right? We do these things, the fight is still happening. Then we want to evaluate, is this a scissor fight where they're biting and moving around and biting and moving around, or a grip fight where they're biting and not letting go? Scissor fights are more common. That is most likely what you'll see when a fight breaks up. You also want to know who is the aggressor. If it's just one dog, great. You can take this one dog out and then it's done. If it's both dogs that are going at it, then you need two handlers ideally, because if you're just handling this dog and moving them out, dog B is going to just keep going after you guys and it's not going to work. So you want to make sure you call for help either with your walkie-talkie or by looking around and signaling, hey, come help me. You also want to know, how urgent is the situation? If it's a Great Dane going after a Maltese, then that requires more, urgency. We need to either utilize a more aversive tool or a more hands-on technique to end the fight as quickly as possible. This also applies to blocked airways. If the dog is not able to get air because of a position they're in, that also means that we need to act a bit faster and with more urgency. But with that in mind, a lot of the fights that we're going to be seeing and separating, when you do separate them, there's no puncture wounds, there's no blood. Usually it's just saliva on the fur. So, and I tell you this because I don't want you to panic when a fight breaks out, because panic increases injury. If you're freaking out, that might cause you to, go all in and maybe put your hands on the dogs and then you get bit. Or maybe you do something like pull a scruff of the dog and try to do something and you aggravate the dog and then they go harder into the fight. So you want to make sure you try your best to not panic. And also try to remember that noise does not equal damage. Just because a fight looks and sounds scary does not mean that you're going to break them up and they're going to be heavily wounded. Like I mentioned, most of the fights are just going to be saliva on them. But let's watch a fight for two reasons: to break it down and watch what other people do in this video and what's wrong, what's right, and also so that if you've never experienced or seen a fight before, this is your chance to take it in. Because when it happens in front of you, it can be really jarring and it can cause you to freeze, and we don't want that. We don't want you to freeze up and be like, well, what do I do? Right? So take this moment to watch this video and really take it in what a fight looks and sounds like.
This is a black lab.
Okay, I'm going to pause it here immediately because this already is inappropriate, right? Like the tension, they're kind of facing off, face to face, very, very tense. This alone, if you apply body pressure, verbal correction, hey, don't do that, right? Come on, let's go do something over here. That alone would be enough to, avoid a fight from breaking out. If you can be proactive about it, even better. But this person doesn't.
Oh, a ball.
Okay, right? Loud, lots of movement. What the owners do here that I do like is they're doing what we just talked about. They're moving towards the fight and they're utilizing a verbal correction that is firm and loud. So that is good that they did that. Okay, that's not ideal, sticking our hands into the fight. When dogs are doing this, they're not very aware of where their mouth is landing. They're just kind of, I'm going to bite you here, here, and there, right? It's a lot, it's chaotic. So if you put your hand in there, right, they're going to redirect onto you. So this is not a safe method, just sticking your hand in a fight. You're going to get redirected onto you. Also, she's grabbing the dog by the harness. Our dogs don't wear collars or harnesses in the yard, so that's not really an option for us anyway. But just want to really drive home the point that we're not sticking our hands into a fight because, again, you can easily get bit by doing that. Jack. Okay. So now let's talk about our tools. We have some pictures here. We have the blanket, the cot, the hose, and the bucket. I also have a note that we always want to use the least intrusive and aversive method first before moving on to something else. This is ideally what we strive to do. Realistically, it's not always going to be possible, right? And we'll talk more about that in the next slide when we go over an example of how to use each tool. But ideally, you always want to try and start with something less aversive, like the spray bottle, before we move on to something like an air horn. But let's talk about our options here. We have noise makers, so that can be clapping, verbal corrections like, hey, don't do that, right? Loud. Water bowls, if you grab them together and you hit them, that makes a loud noise. We also have water, like spray bottles, or maybe the hose. Water bowls, again, if you splash them with that. Visual blocks, you have the cot. We're going to watch a video later on how to use that to separate an interaction between two dogs. You can use cones if you have those big cones in your yard, grouper scoopers, a blanket. You know, there's a lot of options to be creative. Lastly, we have the air horn. Some notes about the air horn. This can lead to ear injuries, people and dogs. So that's one of the reasons we don't want to use that willy-nilly, like let's grab that and use it immediately. This should only be used as a last resort. Because it can lead to ear injuries, we don't want to use it next to the dog's ears or our ears. We want to use it high and we want to press it once or twice. We don't want to press it and keep it pressed. It should be light, just 2 touches. Because of how loud and aversive it can be, this is only for outside yards only. Inside yards, we have dogs that are boarding with us in their rooms. We don't want to disturb them and cause them stress. So that's why we only want to use this outside. So this is the example I was talking about. And this is an example, right? Things are going to change, right? You might have different dogs, different people, different tools available to you. So don't see this as like this is how you must do it all the time. This is just an example of how you would start with something less aversive, less intrusive, and move on to something more aversive, more intrusive. So the first thing when a fight breaks out is obviously going to be the verbal correction and body pressure moving towards the fight. I do have a note here that when I say body pressure, I don't mean body blocking. Body pressure is moving towards the fight. Body blocking would be more, I'm going to get in between the fight and try to use my body to block you guys from not fighting anymore. You're asking to get bit by doing that. You're getting directly in the line of fire by getting in between those two dogs. This also applies for fence fighting. If two dogs are fighting a fence and you put your body in between that, right, you're putting yourself directly in that line. Okay, but let's say that doesn't work. Then we're going to use a spray bottle or a water bucket. That doesn't work. Maybe we try the cot. We try to, use that visual barrier. That doesn't work. We have the water bowl noisemaker. We grab 2 empty water bowls and we hit them together and make a really loud noise. Hose would be next. You grab the hose, you spray them, right? That doesn't work. Then we use the air horn. Again, the note, outside yards only, never indoors. So we talked about all these tools. Where are your tools? You should know where they are. So some of these tools are going to be on your person. So we have the walkie-talkie, so you can communicate with your team. You have the slip leash so that you can remove dogs after a fight. You need to be able to leash them up and get them out of the yard, right? Spray bottle depends. If you have a really big yard, have the spray bottle on you, right? Clip it onto either your shirt or just carry it in your hand. But if you place the water bottle or the spray bottle all the way over here and the fight's all the way over there, it's a hassle to go get it and you're likely not going to use it if it's all the way over there. So keep it on your person. But if you have a really small yard, then sure, right? Keep it in one specific location so you can easily walk over to it and grab it when you need it. It just depends on how big your yard is. Okay, so we have this picture here. And let's imagine that a fight broke out right here in the middle of it. What can we see in this picture that we can use to break up this fight? So I'm seeing a water bucket, which we can use to splash the dogs. You have 2 water buckets, so you can grab both of them and hit them together. And we also have the cots, right? You can pick up that cot and use it as a visual block, separate the dogs. I didn't circle this, but we also have a staff member here. It's technically also a tool, right? You can call them over, hey, I need help. Call them over. So water bowls and cots are going to change positions, right, as you clean the yards every day. Sometimes you might come in, the water bowls are here, the cots are over there. So I recommend every time you step into the yard, make a mental note, okay, here's some water buckets, here's the cot, here's a big cone that I can use. You need to know these things so if a fight breaks out, you don't have to pause and be like, wait, where is it, right? The air horn and the brake stick, which we will go over later on in the presentation, these two tools should be in a designated spot that everyone knows, right? We don't want to leave it here and then sometimes over there, because when we need these tools and we actually need them, we need them, right? We can't just be like, oh, well, I don't know where it is. This needs to be in a specific spot that everyone knows about. Just talk to your team members to know where that spot is going to be. Okay, here's a video of two dogs viciously fighting. Now they're playing, but a staff member is going to use a cot to separate them.
All right.
Right, a lot of the times this can be enough, right? Not seeing the dog, being pushed by a weird object. Usually that's enough to be like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to step back. We're also going to watch this video of this dog fight that breaks out at a dog park. Because I like how the owners use the air horn. It's very light. They don't press it for too long. And it's also very effective. That's it. Beep, beep. That's it. He doesn't press it for too long. He didn't put it right next to the dog's ears. It's very short. That's how it should be used. Outside only, not indoors. Okay, we talked about tools. Now we're getting to the hands-on techniques. And I want to make a note that these aren't necessarily like, these should be last resort. But you should utilize these techniques with caution because they're hands-on, you are putting yourself more at risk to get bit. They can be really effective, but if you feel comfortable with the techniques, if you've used them before and the situation is clearly like, okay, I can use this technique and it'll be safe, then you should use this before you go through all these different tools, right? So maybe sometimes it'll be spray bottle and then water bucket. Ooh, that didn't work. And here's a perfect moment to do a wheelbarrow technique. Let's do it. If you feel comfortable and it's safe. But let's go into the techniques, right? We have two. We have one for scissor fights, which is the most common, and gripping. Let's go over the scissor first. So this is the wheelbarrow technique. In this video, the dogs are playing, so I am moving the dog rather slow. But you're essentially grabbing the dogs by the thighs, right under their tummy, and you're pulling them up and you're moving them back like a wheelbarrow. Like I said, I'm going rather slow in this video. Ideally, to avoid a dog possibly turning around and redirecting onto you, you want to hold them high and you want to move fast. We're not grabbing the ankles or the tails. We're not flinging the dog away. Ideally, you're just pulling them away, and then leash up out of the yard. 2 people is best for this because, like I said, if there's 2 dogs going at it, you need 2 people to do the wheelbarrow at the same time to move them away. If it's 2 dogs and 1 handler who moves the 1 dog away, the other dog is going to follow and continue fighting. And then I have a little note. This is for non-gripping fights. If a dog is biting and gripping and you pull, you're causing greater injury. So you definitely don't want to do this if a dog is biting and holding. This is only for scissor fights. Okay, now we're going to talk about what to do if it is a grip fight. Before we get into the brake stick and the tool and the technique we're going to use, you have to get into control position. When a dog is gripping, there's less movement usually because they hold and they're usually still. There might be some shaking of the face, but it's not usually as much movement. So it's easier when a dog is gripping to get them in between your legs and have some sort of hold. That can be either with the slip leash or you can grab them by the scruff. It's between the legs, and I'm also going to show you this video of how to put the leash on if they have a dog in their mouth, right? Because you can't just slip it over the head. You have to go under the neck and then slip the handle through the loop, and then now you have control. That way, when you actually utilize your brake stick in the side of the dog's mouth and the dog lets go, you can easily pull them off and get them out of that situation. Okay. We're going to watch a video on how to use a brake stick, but first let's look at the tool here. It kind of just looks like a long stick, a brake stick, And you're gonna want to try to put it behind the canine, and it goes in horizontally, so like this, and then you twist it like this to try to create a gap in the mouth, because when they're gripping, their mouth is tight. But if you're able to get it in horizontally and twist it vertically like this, right, it creates a bit of a gap so that when you have control over them with the leash or the scruff, you can pull them off. So we're gonna watch this video of somebody doing this. And this is what I mean, right? It's less movement. The dog is still moving, shaking its head, but it's not as like crazy, running around, lots of fast biting. It's a lot slower. Okay, what did the person just do? They got in control position. They do have a second handler here helping. If you have another handler, and you should in the yard, they can also help you by holding the leash, and maybe you hold the scruff. That's totally fine too. But control position should always be done first before utilizing the break stick. Two things. I like this video specifically because it shows that it's not always as easy as described, right? I told you stick it in, you twist, and bam, you take them off. He had to kind of move it around a little bit before the dog let go. So keep that in mind, that you might have to wiggle it around and see what angle you have to take to get the dog off. Other thing that I like is when he pulled him off, he didn't remove the break stick immediately. He actually gave it to the dog for as something to bite and focus on. So there's less of a chance of the dog whipping around and redirecting onto us. Okay. Let's talk through an example situation. This is helpful because when a fight breaks out, you should know your role just innately. If you're person number one, so for the person closest to the fight, you're the first one to see it. Your job is to identify the aggressor. So in this picture, that would be the poodle, and take the lead on separating the dog fight. You are getting that dog out of the yard. Person number two, you're the second person closest to the fight, second person to notice the fight. You're going to take control of the second dog. So that's dog number two right here, who's the defender. And then person number three, usually that might be like the person in the small yard and they see the fight break out in Biggs where there's two people. That person should come over to Biggs while the fight is happening and help control and manage the other dog. So that would be dog number three, the little bystander who's interested in what's going on. We want to prevent them from joining in and escalating or another fight breaking out. And here's another note. You place the aggressor in a chill out room or in a boarding room, but out of the yard. They go out of the yard when this happens. Okay, so common mistakes. We already talked about this, but freezing, right? We don't want to freeze when a fight breaks out. If you are freezing, you're not moving towards the fight, the least you could do, like the thing you should be doing is at least vocalizing or calling for help so the other people know and they can step in. We don't want to rely on scruffing the dogs or using the slip leash during a scissor fight. We talked about scruffing and using the slip leash for control position, and that's for a gripping fight where they're not moving as much. A scissor fight, there's a lot of movement, and if you're trying to get in there and scruff or leash up a dog, again, you're putting your hand in there, and that increases the chances of someone redirecting onto you and you getting bitten. Same thing here. We don't want to attempt a control position, getting the dog in between your legs during a scissor fight. There's a lot of movement. You're more likely to get bit. We don't want to poke, hit, or kick the dogs. Again, this can aggravate them even more and cause them to fight even harder. Same thing. We don't want to throw things at the dogs. It's the same concept. If you're adding to the situation, if you're adding to the intensity, they're going to respond to it and fight even harder. Body blocking. Talked about this. Body pressure is different. You're moving towards it. You're applying pressure. Body blocking is getting in between the fight, trying to use your own body to stop a dog from going at another dog. You're putting yourself directly in front of the dog's mouth to get bitten. You don't want to do this ever. Utilizing hands without technique. So we talked about the break stick and the wheelbarrow. Those are techniques that you can use. Utilizing your hands by sticking in the fight and trying to grab them, and maybe even they'll get choke hold or a bear hold and grabbing them and trying, right? All these things, it's not a technique. You are doing it just trying to end it as quickly as possible, and you're putting yourself at risk. I know that it's really important to us that we break up these fights quickly because we care and we want the fight to stop, but we have to do so safely, right? We have to think of things. Okay, we have some pictures here. So picture number one, this guy is trying to break up this fight, but what's he doing, right? He's body blocking. He is putting his hand and his knee in the fight. He's putting himself at risk to get bitten. Person number two, same thing. They're trying to get the black dog off of the brown dog by using their leg. What happens if the black dog or the gray dog looks up at the leg and then bites, right? You're putting yourself at risk. Picture number three, we have three people, and we're going to pretend this little baby is an adult. Let's just pretend that. So person in the white, they're holding the dogs apart. Again, our dogs don't wear harnesses or collars, so you can't do that. And also, you're right in between that, right? What happens if the dog goes for your leg? You're right in between, and you can't really control it. Person number two is trying to help by taking the dog, but they're putting themselves in front of the dog, right? That dog's face is right into that lady's leg. Again, putting herself at risk to get bitten. And person number three, let's pretend they're an adult. They're freezing. They're not doing anything. They're not helping the situation. They could at least be managing the dogs over here, trying to get them away from the fight, but they froze. You don't want to be that person. Last picture here is kind of the same concept, right? This guy is trying to avoid a fight from happening by sticking his limbs in there. His knee is in there. He's holding one of the dogs back. He's using his arm here. Don't put your body in a dog fight. If you don't take anything else away, take this part away. Don't put your limbs, your body, your legs, nothing. Don't put it in the fight. Okay. The fight broke out. We solved it. What do we do now? So after the fight, we want to check for injury. This applies to both humans and dogs. For the dogs, you want to check again after 10 minutes with a white rag, because if you run it through, you might be able to see, oh, here's a little bit of blood that we missed because the fur was hiding. And the reason you want to check again is because it's not always obvious if there's an injury, like right after it happens. If there's an employee injury, you want to fill out a report that's going to be on Teams. You also want to create an incident report on Ginger so that everyone's aware about what happened, and same for creating a Teams post so that everyone knows, okay, this happened, we need to keep an eye on it. Going forward, you're going to have to decide and talk to, this is between managers, your trainer, and the team members that were participating in the fight and breaking it up. We have to decide, okay, is this dog or these dogs going to be private dogs going forward? If your location offers buddy play, are they going to be buddy players, or do they just need to be rotated? Maybe these two dogs just don't get along, but outside of that, they do great in the yard. So we just need to avoid putting them in the yard together. Some last minute reminders here. Don't freeze. We talked about this a lot. That's the last thing you want to do. Don't freeze. Prevention is key. We didn't talk too much about this. We will in later presentations, but if we can prevent a fight from happening right when they're freezing or they're having an interaction that's a little iffy, let's see if we can apply body pressure to that to avoid a fight from happening. Know your tools, so know where they are, know how they work. That's going to be important, because if you don't know those things and a fight breaks out, that's not going to help you. And keep your energy in check, right? If you're too stressed and you're like, oh, cut it out, you're adding to the energy in the situation. You want to make sure that to the best of your ability, you try to keep calm. Okay, and here are our sources for the air horn video and the dog park fight for YouTube. And then the break stick video was given to us by Michael Shapaccio, who's the creator of Aggression and Dogs Master Course. Check that out for sure if you're interested in more information on aggression. But thanks for watching.